Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. And today we are talking about Imprint Films, the, of course, boutique label arm of Via Vision Entertainment out of Australia. Talked about them quite often on this show. They have done some wonderful releases, especially angling towards more classic film releases. And I love, first of all, they do bundles every month where they put each month's releases and they crank on releases. They're putting out, 6, 7, 8 titles a month or more in this case. And they will bundle them together so you can get them from their site. In this case, we have 3 box sets. This is for the April 2024 bundle. We have a John Farrow box set, directed by John Farrow, 1942 to 1953. Tales of Adventure, Collection 3, 1951 to 1966. And one of their Film Focus Spotlight collections, Kim Novak, 1957 to 1959. Now, I'm going to start with that last one. I'm going to start with the Kim Novak collection. This comes in a lovely hard box. I love the imprint design with the little wedge taken out there. And we're going to go through these films one at a time. Going to start with Middle of the Night from 1959, actually. Yeah, 1959. And this one was something of a discovery for me. It, I don't think had a Blu-ray release prior to this. Worldwide first on Blu-ray, and was apparently nominated for the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival in 1959. Is the story of the scandalous love affair between a 24-year-old divorcee, that's Kim Novak, and a 56-year-old widower, Frederick March. And I'd heard good things about this one. I have a friend or two that are big Frederick March fans, and this is one that, had been trickier to see. And Kim Novak, of course, I think most known for her incredible turn in Vertigo. She is fantastic in that film. I love her in Bell, Book, and Candle, a low-key witch romance. There's also a wonderful film noir called Pushover with her and Fred MacMurray that's great. But, she's in Picnic and Mirror Cracked and Strangers When We Meet and Five Against the House and, The Legend of Lila Clare. That's a really interesting Robert Aldrich film, actually, that I don't think has a Blu-ray. But anyway, she has done a ton of work, and she's a very gifted actor. She's wonderful in this and has a great, really manic energy, where you're just almost uncomfortable watching her. Frederick March plays Jerry Kingsley, and he is apparently a wealthy garment manufacturer, and he's sort of been left lonely in his late 50s when his wife dies. And despite the difference in their ages, he strikes up a romance with his 24-year-old receptionist, Betty, that is Kim Novak. And the story is really, it doesn't start right away. It's kind of like we see her at the beginning. She's taking orders or something, getting harassed by a lot of men at the garment company, and she ends up going home sick. She's not feeling well, and we find out that, well, I'll get to that in a second. But so the Frederick March character on that particular day has to go home and see his daughter, and his sister lives with him in this apartment, which is an odd scenario. So his daughter's 25. I think she's older than the Betty character, and has a daughter of her own, and she's married to this is written by Patty Chayefsky, I should say. Also, Martin Balsam is the husband I was trying to think of. So that's a great little addition. But so he comes home, his sister has got a card game going, the daughter's there with the baby, and he ends up having to go to Betty's place to get a report that he's got to take to the unions or something like that. He's dealing with unions. So he goes by her apartment and he sees that she's upset. She gives him the thing. She apologizes. And he stops as he's leaving that place and comes back. He's like, yeah, you know what? Tell me what's going on. And so he sits down with her and she goes through her whole story of getting divorced from this musician and how the divorce was final. Now he just wrote her and said he wants to get back together. And she's been traumatized by it because she really doesn't want to get back together with him. And that sort of is the very beginnings of their meet cute. And then Jerry eventually asks her out, and at some point she's like, maybe we shouldn't do this. And then they decide to go full bore into it, and he wants to marry her, and then they start pitching it to their respective families, and doesn't go well. But yeah, very interesting, dramatic turns from everybody involved. A lot of sad people, a midlife crisis movie. I'm a big fan of those. Directed by Delbert Mann, again, screenplay by Paddy Chayefsky based on his play, which apparently ran on Broadway for over a year and starred Edward G. Robinson. So this has 1080p presentation of the movie, reflections on In the Middle of the Night featurette, which is someone interviewing Kim Novak with scenes of the movie playing. I can't remember if they cut to the actual interview or not, but so she's recalling the rehearsal process and various other things about the, behind the scenes of the movie. And so that's kind of neat to have, but definitely an interesting discovery. Definitely a movie I'm glad I got to watch because of this release. So that's a cool one. Then we have, I guess the most known of these three would be Pal Joey. And that's, of course, with Frank Sinatra from 1957 and Rita Hayworth. And it's a musical nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Joey Evans is a charming nightclub singer. He's very popular with the chorus girls. That's, of course, Sinatra. He has a comfortable relationship with Vera, a former dancer who is now a rich widow. But when Linda enters his life, Joey suddenly has to choose between convenience and something far more substantial. So, you have, of course, Rita Hayworth and Kim Novak playing the two poles there. Yeah, an interesting one, and I guess a little less known from Frank Sinatra's, big musicals. Just a little less, but definitely one that people are aware of. An interesting dynamic between the three actors for sure. Audio commentary on selected scenes by Kim Novak and author Stephen Rebello is included here. Backstage and At Home with Kim Novak featurette from 2010. So a couple extra supplements there. And that's about it for that one. And then lastly, we have Gene Eagles, which is a worldwide first on Blu-ray as well. Kim Novak stars as Gene Eagles, the critically acclaimed Broadway actress, in a tragic biographical film about her incredible career and tumultuous personal life. Sort of a rise and fall story. Another big showcase for Kim Novak. She plays Gene Eagles. Gene Eagles is a waitress, desperate for fame, and she joins a carnival to try to achieve it. So the beginning is sort of her in the carnival phase, and she's under the watchful eye of an impresario, Sal Sartori, and soon she earns a job as an understudy for a big production in New York City, but what she really wants is the starring role, and she'll hurt anyone to get it. So it is kind of a, like I said, a rise and fall. She may or may not end up back at the carnival at the end of this, and it may be again a very tragic sort of film. Co-starring Jeff Chandler, always an interesting heel, to the point that I almost just don't like Jeff Chandler when I see him in movies. Like, he's always kind of a jerk, and or has some ulterior motive that's less than positive. And of course, he's seen here making out with her, and was always kind of like, yeah, anyway, not a big Jeff Chandler guy, but he's certainly effective. This also has an audio commentary on selected scenes by Kim Novak and author Stephen Rebello. And and that's about it. So, but again, we have 2 Blu-ray premieres in this box set, which is another thing that Imprint seems to specialize in, is digging out the stuff that's not been on Blu-ray before. And so Gene Eagles and Middle of the Night both get their Blu-ray debuts in this box set, highlighting the work of the great Kim Novak. So next up we have a big old box set of John Farrow, directed by John Farrow. So I love these directed by box sets that Imprint has done. They have all kinds of motifs for their box sets. They have noir, neo-noir box sets. They have regular noir box sets. They have the film focus actor box sets, and the directed by, they did a great Sidney Lumet box set last year, one of my favorite releases. So John Farrow is the featured director in this one. Again, a beautiful box, and we'll just go through these one at a time. I would imagine there's probably some Blu-ray premieres in here as well. I'm going to start with my favorite in this set, which has come out before, and that's Night Has 1,000 Eyes. And this one, well, I should give a brief history of John Farrow if you don't know him. I mean, he's, of course, the father of Mia Farrow, and directed such gems as The Big Clock, Hondo with John Wayne, His Kind of Woman. He's part of the duo there. I think that was Richard Fleischer and him with Robert Mitchum. A great movie called Alias Nick Beale, which I think they actually had in one of their noir box sets, but has also come out from Kino. And one of my favorites is Five Came Back, which is kind of a disaster movie about an airplane that goes down with a group of passengers, a little bit like Stagecoach in the air, in the midst of a jungle area where there's some headhunting tribes about, and not everybody's going to make it out, basically. But anyway, so Night Has 1,000 Eyes was a discovery I made a few years ago. It came out from Kino, it came out from Indicator, and now it's part of this box set. It's from 1948, and I want to say it's like based on a really interesting writer like Cornell Woolrich or somebody like that. I'm forgetting the actual writer of it, but Cornell Woolrich is part of the source material. Anyway, so Edward G. Robinson plays a guy named John Triton, and at the beginning of the movie, Gail Russell plays a woman who's attempts suicide, and her fiance, played by John Lund, brings her to I want to say it's like a bar afterwards, or a diner, and they see this man sitting there. They sit down with him, and in flashback, he goes through his story. He's a mentalist, and he's been having these terrifying flashes of true precognition, where he's seeing things that are actually going to happen. And now, years later, he's desperately trying to prevent tragedies in the Cortland family. And so she was part of a premonition he'd seen, but he's got this bigger one that he's trying to avoid. But it goes through his whole, finding his way as a mentalist. There's some parallels with like Nightmare Alley, where there's that whole con artist bit that they have their thing worked out. But in this case, it's not like they have something of a con, but he also is able to get real premonitions. And they show a scene where he gets one about a woman whose daughter is in danger, and he sends her home, and it's in the midst of this whole like people put letters in a fishbowl and he reads the letters without opening them kind of business. But it's a great build up to the ending, and I'm a big fan of it. So it's nice to have it as part of this set. So it's not a debut by any means, but it looks like it may be the only one in this set that is not a debut. Although I think this is getting some concurrent releases, like Submarine Command is getting a Blu-ray from Kino, but I guess this came out in April, and so it technically beats it to it. So anyway, this one has, in terms of features, a new audio commentary with critic Imogen Sarah Smith. Now that's really exciting because she is one of my favorite film noir, classic film commentators, and so getting her on this is kind of a coup, kind of a big deal And despite the fact that the other releases also have commentaries, that's a commentary that I'm very excited to check out. Also, there's the author's prerogative, biographer Marilyn Ann Moss on John Farrow's films and the life that made them. So that's a brand new featurette of her talking about John Farrow. That's part of, a group of featurettes that fill this box. But there's also a Screen Director's Playhouse Night Has a Thousand Eyes radio version from 1949 included here as well. But that's a great movie if you haven't seen Night Has a Thousand Eyes. So, all right, let's start with Commandos Strike at Dawn. Now, this one from 1942, worldwide first on Blu-ray, sweeping Academy Award nominated score from world-renowned composer Louis Grunberg makes essential viewing of this classic wartime drama starring Paul Muni from Scarface, Anna Lee from The Sound of Music, and the First Lady of American cinema, Lillian Gish. Always great in a lot of movies, but I love her in Night of the Hunter. Erik Thoresen is a simple Norwegian fisherman who finds his quiet coastal village shattered by the Nazi invasion. Though untrained in the ways of war, when an elder member of the community is maimed and tortured, Thoresen mobilizes the villagers and trains them to fight. So that's sort of the underdog story of this one. Now, this doesn't have anything in the way of features, unfortunately, but it's Paul Muni, who I'm a big fan of, and it is a Blu-ray debut. So that's equally interesting. Definitely have never seen this before, and in fact, a lot of these I haven't seen. Okay, so that's Commandos Strike at Dawn. Then we have more World War II type stuff here. The Hitler Gang from 1944. Now this one, worldwide first on Blu-ray. Groundbreaking historical drama follows the rise of Adolf Hitler in a stunningly accurate portrayal of the ruthless dictator from a small radical political adventurer to the dictator of Germany. Named Life magazine's Movie of the Week in May 1944, John Farrow and team worked tirelessly to ensure complete authenticity in every uniform, medal, and piece of weaponry, with research costs alone reaching $40,000 in 1943. That's a lot of money. This daring film is ripe for rediscovery, celebrating its 80th anniversary this year. So I've never heard of this one, and I don't know the actor they have playing Hitler, but this is a Paramount release, and I don't think there's a ton of movies that cover his rise from, prior to his station in World War II, and making this in 1944 very timely, before the war is even over. Okay, so 1080p presentation, new audio commentary by film historian Daniel Creamer and Alan Arkush. I'm a huge Alan Arkush fan. I love his films and him as a film fan, a cinephile. He's wonderful. So love to hear his take on this. He, of course, directed Rock and Roll High School and Get Crazy and Heartbeeps and Caddyshack 2. I love all his films, honestly. But I love him as a film fan. He's great on Trailers from Hell. If you haven't seen his trailers over there, he does a wonderful job, along with folks like Joe Dante and Josh Olson, some of the big regulars at Trailers from Hell. New Master of Invention, a video essay by filmmaker and critic David Cairns. So that, assuming, is about... again, John Farrow, The Rise of a Dictator, Teaching Custodians educational film from 1944. Interesting inclusion there. But I do like the variety of stuff that Imprint chooses to put on these releases. So that is The Hitler Gang from 1944. Then we have Submarine Command. Now, this is the one that just has gotten a Blu-ray. They listed it as a worldwide first, and in April it was. But this one's getting a Blu-ray from Kino, which I'll talk about at some point on the channel too. But acclaimed Academy Award-winning actor William Holden brings to life this tragic story set during the devastating Korean War. This is from 1951. A submarine commander is haunted by personal guilt linked to his wartime actions, which caused the death of his captain and a crewman. He's called back to duty to helm the same submarine when the Korean War flares up. So that is an interesting premise, and I'm a big fan of William Holden. I like him a lot, And so this is a movie that, like, outside of these 2 releases that it's gotten in the last couple months, I didn't know anything about. Supporting cast appears to be like Nancy Olson, William Bendix, Don Taylor, some folks I recognize there, but haven't seen a ton of Korean War movies, if I'm honest. So, John Farrow directing a Korean War movie is intriguing to me. This one includes a new audio commentary by film historians Lee Pfeiffer, Tony Latino, and Paul Scrabo. A couple of those guys, part of the Sam Peckinpah bunch, the group that does a lot of commentaries for the Peckinpah films, and they're always well-informed and good at what they do in terms of commentary. Also new, A Weapon Called Style, author Jeremy Arnold on John Farrow's war years and combat films specifically. That's brand new. And then there's a Lux Radio Theater Submarine Command with William Holden radio version from 1952. I do love the inclusion of radio versions on these discs as well. Next up we have Botany Bay, also a worldwide Blu-ray premiere, 1953. And this is an Alan Ladd movie. He stars as a convict on the first fleet to Botany Bay in a thrilling adventure on the high seas. Set in 1787, a boatload of prisoners are shipped to Botany Bay, and amongst them is a wrongly imprisoned medical student who finds himself victimized by the ship's captain. Also starring Academy Award-nominated actor James Mason and Patricia Medina. Another film I'm not aware of, but I do like the cast and the premise, certainly, and that it's a Blu-ray premiere. This is 1080p high-def presentation. New audio commentary by film historians Daniel Creamer and David Del Val. And his kind of director, Joe Dante, on the artistry of John Farrow. Very exciting featurette with an interview with the great Joe Dante, talking about his love of John Farrow. All right. That is very cool. I didn't know Joe Dante. I mean, outside of Alias Nick Beale, which I know Joe Dante's a big fan of. He did a wonderful trailer from Hell on him, on that particular film. So I should have figured he likes John Farrow. And The Big Clock, obviously, great thriller there. Okay, lastly, we have a really cool documentary. This is the bonus disc. John Farrow, Hollywood's Man in the Shadows, a 2021 feature-length documentary. This is also a worldwide first on Blu-ray. John Farrow, Hollywood's Man in the Shadows, is the first documentary made about one of Hollywood's most prolific yet forgotten filmmakers. I agree, he is certainly forgotten considering the great work he did. Part mystery, biography, and film noir discover the stranger-than-fiction life of this Australian-born Oscar winner. I did not know he was Australian-born, so it makes sense that Imprint is doing this set. I'm just curious who they interviewed for this one, but I'll check that in a second here. This one is a 1080p presentation on Blu-ray, of course, and it has a new interview with filmmakers Franz Vandenberg and Claude Gonzalez, Botany Bay and Plunder of the Sun sequence, A Big Clock with filmmaker Joe Dante. I think that's a trailer from Hell bit. Original crowdfunding investment teaser. It looks like they talked to Margaret Pomeranz, David Stratton, Philip Noyce, and Philip Mora. Interesting. Yeah, so that's cool. Just a documentary all about John Farrow to close things out. I think that's a great inclusion in this set, and a doc that I definitely want to check out as a fan of his, who I've seen a small percentage, maybe a third, but probably not even that much of his films, but I've definitely enjoyed what I have seen. So this is a great new directed by box set from Imprint Films, and we have one more to go. It is one of those variety box sets. It is the adventure sort of collection that they've been working on, and this is the third volume for that set. That is Tales of Adventure Collection 3, and this includes 4 films, and probably one of these is going to be a Blu-ray debut. I know that one is definitely not, because I have it on Blu-ray in another way. But okay, let's talk about Tales of Adventure and the 4 films. Again, this is 1951 to 1966. So we'll start with The Tall Men, which is a worldwide first on Blu-ray. Hollywood legend Burt Lancaster stars in this epic wartime adventure. Sergeant Mike Kincaid of the French Foreign Legion learns that an attack will soon be made by the villainous Hussein on the Legion's outpost of Tarfa. Kincaid volunteers to lead 9 other Legionnaires on a mission to delay Hussein's attack till reinforcements arrive. This is definitely my kind of vibe. It says it in the description there. This is a man on a mission movie, and I'm a big fan of those. It is directed by Raoul Walsh. It's not. Yeah, it is that. Hold on a second. There's multiple movies called The Tall Men, so I don't want to get confused here. This is the 1951. That is the 1955. That's the one I'm thinking of, actually. So this one, directed by Willis Goldbeck. Burt Lancaster, Jody Lawrence, Gilbert Roland, George Tobias. Actually, not a lot of other folks I recognize in this cast. Very interesting. But I do like the idea of him playing a French Foreign Legion officer and it being a man on a mission movie in that context. I haven't seen a ton of those. Is March or Die? There's one called March or Die with Gene Hackman. I think is kind of a man on a mission movie, but yeah, it sounds like there's kidnapping involved and lots of plotting going on here. This is very underseen, at least according to Letterboxd. Only like 226 logs on Letterboxd. So this Blu-ray will hopefully correct that, I would like to think. But again, worldwide premiere on Blu-ray. Doesn't have any features on it, unfortunately, and it's 133 to 1. But that is The Tall Men. Then we have The Heroes of Telemark. Now, this has been on Blu-ray before, apparently. This is from 1965. And remarkable true story of the Norwegian heavy water sabotage comes to life in The Heroes of Telemark, starring Kirk Douglas and Richard Harris. In occupied Norway, a roll of microfilm smuggled from a water factory is the first clue the Allies have that Germany might be ahead of them in the race to create an atomic weapon. A group of Norwegian resistance fighters bravely attempt to stop Germany's plans by destroying heavy water installations. So yet again, guys on a mission movie, filled with stealth and suspense and filmed on location in Norway. This engrossing tale is bound to excite. Has some new features on it. So while it has been available before, these features will not have been featured on other discs. I'll get to those in a second. Michael Redgrave, David Ulla Jacobson, Eric Porter. Yeah, again, another cast that starts to disappear into folks that I don't know as well. But anyway, so back to the features. New audio commentary by film historians Steve Mitchell and Stephen J. Rubin. The making of The Heroes of Telemark. Interview featurette with the production crew. That's cool. And also new Playing a Hero, an interview with actor David Weston. So he can recall his memories of the production. Location reports from Norway and Weymouth. That's from 1965, archival bit. And also vintage interviews with Richard Harris, Kirk Douglas, Michael Redgrave, Ulla Jacobson, Anthony Mann as well. As this was directed by Anthony Mann. I buried the lead there. And pretty cool because I'm so used to Anthony Mann as either a noir director or a Western director, but I haven't seen him make a war movie. And I'm sure this isn't probably the only war movie he made, but definitely intrigued by the idea of him doing so and what he would have to say about it. So that is Heroes of Telemark. Now we have Sands of the Kalahari. I know this one's been available on Blu-ray before. Some new features added to this disc. 7 passengers of a plane crash fight for survival in sands of the Kalahari, based on the New York Times bestseller. A chartered plane crashes in a remote African desert after colliding with a swarm of locusts. It's not the harsh surroundings or the vicious baboons. That's definitely something that's highlighted in the key art for this film, and definitely part of the reason I like it as animal attacks enthusiast. Vicious baboons is not an often used trope in animal attacks movies. There's one called Shakma, a very cartoony, goofy killer baboon gets loose in a medical student lab movie. I feel like there's a couple more, maybe like that I'm not thinking of. Primal Rage kind of has a little bit of that. Anyway, vicious baboons, but it's the nervous survivors that you have to worry about. But a fellow crazed passenger. So like one person going nuts in this group is, and I won't get into that. Filmed on location in Namibia and Spain, the brutal story of survival was directed by Cy Enfield. And Cy Enfield did Zulu, and he did, what's the other one that I really like of his? I'm trying to think. Zulu's interesting, certainly, but Cy Enfield, he did Mysterious Island. That's sort of the Ray Harryhausen area, but he did Try and Get Me, which is a really great noir with, I want to say it's with Bridges. Frank Lovejoy. No, Lloyd Bridges is in it. My bad. Frank Lovejoy, Lloyd Bridges, Richard Carlson, also known as The Sound of Fury, and one called Hell Drivers with Stanley Baker and Herbert Lom. Very good stuff. Anyway, I like Cy Enfield. But this one, this is a cool one because of the animal attack looming and the craziness and just survivalist stories like this I'm into. So a good inclusion in this adventure set. 1080p presentation, new audio commentary by film historian Scott Harrison. Also new Sounds of the Kalahari interview with sound camera operator Arkady Durakov and clapper loader Douglas Milsom. Always interesting to get the takes from crew members like that can be, I don't want to say ignored, but in terms of their access to good stories and misbehavior, if you will, that kind of role, those kind of folks tend to have really good stories. So definitely curious about those new featurettes with Sands of the Kalahari. Okay, and lastly, we have Lost Command, and this is the other worldwide first on Blu-ray. French journalist and former soldier Jean Lartigue's groundbreaking novel, The Centurions, comes to the silver screen in this thrilling adaptation. After a humiliating defeat in Indochina, Lieutenant Colonel Repsky gets another chance to prove himself when he meets and falls for a beautiful French countess who uses her position to swing him a new posting in Algeria. Shot on location in Spain, Lost Command stars the great 2-time Academy Award-winning Anthony Quinn. I want to say there's somebody else interesting in this one too, but it's definitely one that I have heard of but have not seen, and maybe in part because of its lack of availability. This is from 1966, if I didn't mention that. Alan Delon is in this, yes, and George Segal. That's awesome. Claudia Cardinale. This has got an interesting cast, very international cast, some French cast folks that sound familiar. But Anthony Quinn, Alan Delon, and George Segal and Claudia Cardinale, like that alone, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Let's see it. And this is another one that doesn't have anything in the way of special features, but its inclusion and its status as a Blu-ray premiere with that cast and with that premise is exciting to me. So The Lost Command. I feel like for me, these adventure sets are getting more exciting with each passing round. It feels like they're moving up in time, and I don't know if that'll be, an indicator that the next round will be 1966 on into the 70s, or just a 60s based group, or if they'll go backwards. Who knows? But I do like the way that they're selecting the films and the range of time that they're using, and the fact that they are, a lot of them, Blu-ray premieres, as I said. So again, we have the Tales of Adventure Collection 3, we have John Farrow, directed by John Farrow, a beautiful box set there. And the first one I mentioned, the Film Focus, Kim Novak, all new from Imprint Films. And you can get these from, just search Imprint Films. It'll take you to the Via Vision site. They can also be purchased often through Diabolic DVD or import CDs or even Amazon, sometimes a little after release. But, the easiest way to do it is to pre-order through Imprint, and I'll leave a link below to the Via Vision website. Anyway, these are all region-free, just so you know. I should have mentioned that. I always mean to. I've never come across a region-locked Imprint Films disc to this date, so they are easy to play without a multi-region player if you don't have one. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.